YouTube, what is going on? It is your boy Cam from Tweeking Media, and we are back with another Gacha on the Gacha. Honkai Star Rail version 3.2 is now live, and with that, the second year anniversary has officially begun with the release of baby girl Castorice. So of course, we're going to be doing some summons and pulls for her. We're going for E2 and we're going for S1, so look forward to that. Now, a bit of a forewarning though before we get into the video. This is post-editing Cam talking, and what I noticed is that the audio mixing in this that I did for when I was doing my initial commentary is absolutely scuffed. I did not notice that I made the in-game background audio a little bit too loud. I cut off the music, but the actual sound effects are very loud compared to my voice on the mic. So I figured that I would do a sort of a post commentary for this video. And once I, make sure I configure the audio settings for the next time, because I do want to do more commentary style videos for Star Rail in the future, or just for all the Gacha games in the future. I do like doing like the Gacha pool EXE videos, but creatively it can get a bit taxing. But I would like to know your thoughts. Would you want to see more of, future videos of me talking, my stupid face showing on the camera and talking about my thoughts of what's going on and how I feel about the unit and things of that nature? Or would you prefer more of the shorts approach like I did with the trigger video? Or would you prefer to do stuff similar to the Rappy EXE video that I did that's still getting views because you guys are insane? But anyway, let's get on to the actual video. So like I said, the commentary for the polls will be post commentary, but the builds portion of the video, that will be what I recorded live, since that's not too taxing as far as like the background audio. So for that portion of the video, that will be Cam when he was actually recording, giving my thoughts at the moment. But yeah, apologies in advance for that, guys, and that this issue will be fixed for future videos. And with all that being said, guys, be sure to show this video some love, like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and click on that bell icon to stay notified of all future posts regarding content on this channel. Share this video amongst all your fellow Gacha degenerates. Help us get to 1K sub, guys. You've been killing it with the support lately, and I highly appreciate that, and thank you guys for that. And with all that being said, guys, let's get on to the actual pulls. All right, so like I mentioned before, this is all post commentary. So yeah, if you notice me rambling on the background, it's live Cam doing shenanigans. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to address the elephant in the room and give my thoughts of what's been going on in the current state in the Star Rail community. Now, I want to give some context before I give my thoughts, and hopefully you guys listen to that. I want to let you guys know I am not a Kuro bot. I'm not a Hoyo shill, or whatever the phrases are going on nowadays. They don't pay me for anything. I just play the game and pull. As you can see on my channel, I pull for every character and their light cone. That's the bare minimum that I'm willing to do when it comes to Triple Z, when it comes to Honkai Star Rail. Also on Wuthering Waves, and well, Nikkei I just pull for one copy if it's a standard unit, and then if it's like a limited unit, I go for MLB and stuff like that. So I'm a bit of a pay to play player, you know what I'm saying? So but I think that I'm not too heavily involved in the community. That's the big thing I want to address first and foremost. So like, I'm not super deep into subreddits. I'm not subscribed to like 50,000 Star Rail content creators. I'm not in any discords. I am just someone who I may passively see like some post on Reddit, and then maybe a content creator that I rock with that also does Star Rail content. I may see some of their videos on it, but I'm not like in the fields of the actual to know everything that's going on with the community in regards to the controversy surrounding Castorice, the global passives, and people's thoughts on lack of content and the story in 3.0. I'm not like too in tuned with that. I've just been seeing some things in passing, but my overall thoughts on kind of everything that's been going down lately, I'll start with the power creep and global passive for Castorice. And I will say this, I definitely understand the complaint. I think the complaints are valid, because it is, like I said, I did a little bit of playing around with different teams and stuff, and I took her on Memory of Chaos stages. I took her on Apocalyptic Shadow. I didn't do any pure fiction stuff yet, and I also did some Divergent Universe runs with her, just to kind of see like how she is compared to Mighty and some of the other previous DPS characters I've used in the past. And there is a very clear difference in power. Castorice is very good. She's very fun to use, but it is very like, hey man, like if you really want to have fun, you should probably have Castorice. And it definitely does feel, especially with the HP scaling of the enemies we've been getting lately, and just seeing Castorice do a mega flare for like 1,000,000 damage, just standard. Now granted, I do have her at E2 S1, so the damage may be different compared to like a E0, E0 S0, or whatever you want to call it. So the damage scaling may be different, but just seeing like Memory of Chaos, the stage where you have to fight the Black Swordsman, and she's just doing millions of damage, like, and it's not even like a quarter of his health, and it's crazy to kind of see that type of, because we really wouldn't see that in previous patches. But I definitely see the complaints and stuff about in-game content power scaling and power creeping with like a character like Castorice. And also with the global passive of her, basically your team is just not able to die. Like I thought it was kind of crazy that you had Mighty, who was like, as long as he has his berserk form, he can't die. So I was like, man, that's pretty cool. It fits his character, and it's kind of nice, and it's not saving your team, because like if the enemy just obliterates your other team, Mighty's just sitting there. But just saying like, yeah, but we're gonna make it like a lot better for the next character that's coming out is kind of insane to me. But as far as my thoughts on the matter, and hear me out when I say this again, Hoyoverse is not giving me a check to do. Hey, if you want to sponsor me, hey, go for it. But it's a gacha game, and what I mean by that is I don't have a lot of insight onto how things were during the Honkai Impact 3rd days. I have no insight, because apparently that stuff, the global passive stuff, started in that game. My experience with Honkai Impact the 3rd was I played like 3-4 tutorial missions, and I like never touched the game again. It wasn't for me. Not saying it was a bad game, but it just wasn't for me. And I already had so many other gacha games I'm playing. I just can't add another one to my plate. But I do have experience playing like a big gacha game that I played in the past that I still, I log into every now and then, is One Piece Treasure Cruise. I was heavy into that game back in the day. I don't know if my account is as stacked as it used to be back then, but I was like pulling on every banner, trying to get every legend that's essentially, in this game. So if you want to do a comparison, it's the 5-star unit. It's the most most powerful units, we call them legends in One Piece Treasure Cruise. And I remember back in that day, like when I was playing the game, and they introduced some new game modes. One of them, I think it was Kazuna. It was a Kazuna Rush. I think it's called Kazuna Rush. Don't know if that's the name. Correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you guys play One Piece Treasure Cruise. But basically, this game mode that they introduced, at first, it was very free to play friendly. It was basically a mode where you can take a lot of different team compositions, and you kind of like fight like three different type of bosses. You get these tickets, and you cash in those tickets for rewards and stuff. There's a free-to-play character. There's super evolutions, which are like, they call them like 6-star plus forms of certain legends that came out in the past. So it was like a really cool way to boost your account and do some fun game modes. There was a guild system, so you can form a guild with your friends and compete for the top spot. So it was nice and cool and stuff, but there was a lingering feeling in the back of everybody's mind that like they're gonna Bandai this, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna find a way to finesse their player base for way more money and find a way to power creep the game mode. And there were some people at the time that were like heavily defending on like, no, it's free to play, they never do that. But a lot of us kind of had that feeling like, well, I mean, it's a gacha game, and we've seen what they did with another game mode called Treasure Map, where they introduced Treasure Map exclusive units and Treasure Map exclusive, well, not exclusive, they've always had Treasure Map exclusive units, but Treasure Map exclusive legends that were designed to just make your runs in Treasure Map way more faster, way more smoother, so you can get the top spot a lot more easier if you either had like really good luck or a good credit card. So And lo and behold, they started doing with a Kazuna Rush or Kazuna Clash. I think it's Kazuna Clash. And we started to see like them release Kazuna exclusive Sugofest characters that were just designed to make your runs in that game mode a lot more faster, a lot more easier. And again, you can say, oh well, maybe some free-to-play players who still play the game can say, I'm able to pull these units easily. And it's like, okay, you have good luck. But there are some people who just don't have that type of luck, who don't have that type of disposable income to continuously, because you have to understand that the way that One Piece Treasure Cruise works is that they kind of like flip through the same, it's similar to Star Rail, where they flip through the same kind of content, where they'll drop a treasure map, they'll drop a Kazuna Clash shortly after, and then they'll drop like I think they call it like Grand Pirate Adventure or something like that, which is a new game mode that just got introduced I think last year. And with each time they do this, they're introducing a new treasure map legend, they're introducing a new Kazuna legend. So like we're talking about like the amount of legends that get released on a month-to-month basis on Treasure Cruise is crazy. Like if you're somebody who I wouldn't even encourage you to even try to summon for every single legend in the game, because your wallet is not ready for that. And so, but it's very clear that like there was a point in time where One Piece Treasure Cruise felt very free to play friendly, and it felt like there was a lot of accessibility for people who may not have the disposable income to keep up with the game, but you could still play the game, you can still get the rewards, you can still grind for free to play characters, you can still have enough currency to maybe even go to pity for maybe some of the newest legends during like anniversaries or during various celebrations. And it just felt that at a certain point they just said, nah, we want money. And now I'm not saying that Star Rail is at this point, but what I am saying is that Star Rail at its core is a gacha game, and gacha games are in the business of, they want your money. And it's they don't want you to be a free to play player. If Star Rail could wish upon a star, it would wish for everybody to be a pay to play player, to spend money, to pull for every single character, to pull for to go for E6 every single character, for go to S5 for every single character. They would love that, because that's just more profit, that's more revenue on their end, right? So it's one of those things where like I feel like for a lot of people, because this could be a lot of people's first like real gacha game that they've been playing, right? And I feel like for this game, this game had a longer honeymoon phase that I noticed, and concerns with other gacha games that I played, where like there was just this, I don't want to call it, I don't know the right word for it, so I'm just going to say toxic. There's this very much like Star Rail can do no wrong syndrome that was going around, that I noticed in some of the community posts that I would tune into every now and then. And I think as a result of that, it kind of like there was like this whiplash effect that once like leading up to 3.0 and then everything dropping in 3.0 kind of created this like, oh man, no, Star Rail, bump that. And so I feel like it just culminated to everybody just going like, no, this game sucks now. And they don't care about their player base anymore. They're money hungry, they're greedy pigs, blah blah blah. And me, I'm just looking at it going like, it's a gacha game. I expected them to do something like this eventually, right? And I'm not saying that Star Rail is not at the point where, like, again, you want to see you really want to see what a greedy gacha game looks like. You can look at a game like One Piece Treasure Cruise, because that, man, I've never seen a game still be somewhat successful while continuously finessing their player base, right? Star Rail is not at that level yet, in my opinion. But I do think that in terms of what they're doing with Castorice is just the tip of the iceberg, as they say, right? Like for people, I'm just gonna tell you this right now, like her banner is gonna do successful. The Star Rail is they're gonna make money off of this second year anniversary, and what this is gonna tell them is that, hey, these guys want more global passives, they want more powerful characters and stuff and things of that nature. And I think that we can complain about it all we want to in the discords and the Reddit communities and maybe in the official Hoyo Lab community post or whatever, but what speaks to them is how much money they make from this. So this is one of those instances where if you do feel like, you know, hey, I don't like this system, I don't like these changes that are happening in Star Rail, this is the perfect time to vote with your wallet, you know. And, you know, not just voting with your wallet in terms of like not spending anything on Castorice's banner. I mean, like, delete the game. And I'm not even saying that as like if you don't like the game, then stop playing. I'm saying, like, if a lot of a big thing that they also consider is consistent player bases as well. That's another thing that they lead into the success of a particular patch, or you know, things that alongside like banner revenue and things of that nature. They count, you know, how many people are playing this patch compared to previous patches, how many players are playing this patch compared to the first year anniversary with Acheron. They count those things. So it's like, if enough people don't summon for Castorice, don't buy any top-ups, and don't play the game for an extended period of time, that speaks volumes, and that, you know, that could eventually spark some change and go like, hey, look, whenever Star Rail posts, they ask about like the player surveys, you know, speak your mind. Obviously don't be a dick, or, you know, do some death threats or some cringe stuff like that, but, you know, give your honest thoughts and opinions about it. And then if you notice that we get to a point where they're just clearly, they don't care and they don't listen, then that's when you just don't play. I just think that, you know, the positive thing that you can do for your life is just not touch the game again. Like I said, I am in a position where I have enough disposable income, and I still enjoy playing the game enough to continue to summon for every character, summon for the Lycon. I'm also trying to do stuff in the content creation space as well. So there are slight little incentives for me to do what I do in concerns with Star Rail in this, you know, in this channel. But for me, I think overall, I do understand. I think that the complaints and stuff are valid for Castorice, but for me, I'm just kind of like, I've seen this happen, and it was only a matter of course, right? Because it was the same thing with Genshin, right? Genshin came out and it was just a childhood sweetheart. It was like, oh my god, this gacha game is amazing, and then like a year later, or maybe even a year and a half later, people was like, this game sucks. And now it's like the same thing with Star Rail, right? And especially with 3.0. I definitely also understand the complaints about the lack of content, because 3.1's content was a joke. So like, usually because I'm doing so much stuff with gacha on the gacha, as far as like you know, I'm covering Triple Z, I'm covering Nikkei, I'm trying to get back into Wuthering Waves on the channel, and also doing stuff for Star Rail. I don't have a lot of time to just like log in and just do a bunch of stuff. Like what I used to do before I started doing Gacha on the Gacha, I was able to just do so much stuff because I wasn't doing any editing or trying to make, you know, content ideas for the channel and things of that nature. So it was easy for me to just sit down for like a long session and just play Star Rail, right? But now that I'm doing a lot of other things on the channel, it's harder for me to like just focus on one specific gacha game at a moment from from just doing everything, all their content. So for 3.1, I didn't do like with the AWU Film Festival stuff. Like I didn't do that until like literally it was like 6 hours left until I think the game was finna go into maintenance, and like I did that thing in like an hour. Like I was just like, wow. So, and I think and a big thing is that what I think that Star Rail is doing is, since this patch, they confirmed that there's not going to be any filler. Every single patch update that we get, we're getting story mode content, and I think that they consider that to be a big chunk of content. So they're just like, well, we don't have any incentive to like make any of the stuff that we used to do back in like when we did the Penacony filler patches, and you know, the Bellabog filler patches and the Xian Show filler patches and things like that. Like I don't think they felt a huge incentive for this particular string of patches to go too crazy on the content outside of the Trailblaze missions, because they count the Trailblaze missions as this big chunk of content that should keep you engaged for the entire thing. And then they definitely also consider Apocalyptic Shadow refresh, Pure Fiction, and Memory of Chaos to be big content refreshes, and also the Divergent Universe expansion that they did last patch, they also consider it to be a huge form of content. Many other people, like there could be, I know a lot of people are like, well, that's not some people don't really like. I remember reading a statistic about like that. Like there's a lot of players that don't even touch Memory of Chaos from an in-game content perspective. And like I said, I understand that, and I do think that they need to, release a lot more content. Like Triple Z goes insane. There's just so much stuff for you to do in Triple Z, patch after patch. Even with patches with like big story mode content, there's just so much stuff for you to do in Triple Z. It's insane. I mean, even from a weekly refresh standpoint, every single week is, so this week in particular, we're getting a Shiyu defense refresh, and the next week is going to be Deadly Assault, and we just keep getting like these content refreshes. Just so much stuff to do outside of like the story mode that it really keeps the player base engaged until they drop the next patch. And so I can understand like a lot of people, because there have been a lot of comparisons I've seen between all three games, and yeah, I definitely see that. But I'm just saying, I feel like the developers think that like, since hey, we're giving you a Trailblaze mission every patch, and we got all this in-game content refresh, and oh, you got Divergent Universe, so that should keep you busy. You know what I'm saying? That's what they count as like the big content, and they're like, we'll give you this little woo festival thing that, and then they'll keep you busy for like maybe an hour or two and stuff like that. So that's what they're counting, and that's in my opinion. But I do think that they need to do a lot more diversity in their content, like they used to do back, when they would have a filler patch. And so yeah, so I definitely understand that's valid. So, and as far as the story mode stuff is concerned, I've seen a lot of complaints about like the presentation of the story, and maybe even some of like the plot points and stuff. My opinions on Amphorius as a whole so far, I have not done obviously I have not done the Castorice stuff as far as like 3.2. I've not done that, haven't touched it yet, but for the most part, I think it's been okay. Like, I feel like the most I've been involved in Star Rail's story was like beginning Penacony, when they had that whole murder mystery thing going. I thought that was really interesting. But after that, like, I feel like a big problem with Star Rail's storytelling is that it drags a little bit too long. Like, end of Penacony, I was just like, bro, can we end this, please? And also, a lot of the fake out deaths were kind of annoying. It was just like, okay, so you're afraid to kill off characters. Oh, but it's a 4-star character? Okay, well, makes sense, right? Yeah, so it's a bit of a, it just kind of depends on how you feel. I feel like that's more of a very subjective thing as far as how you feel about the state of Amphorius. Like I said, I really liked Mighty's portion of 3.1. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked his whole story of him wanting to redeem, like wanting to, build a new legacy for his people and stuff, like this blood-stained, like dying on the battlefield for glory type thing that they had going on. I thought that was pretty cool. The Treon stuff was like, meh. I didn't really feel anything. I just felt like it was one of those like, well, we weren't going to do it for Trippy, so somebody had to go. So Treon, you're up. Also, upon context, like, it kind of makes the follow-up attack whenever somebody does an ultimate and Trippy follows up with a little rocket launcher. It puts a bit of perspective into that because it's Treon going and like blowing herself up. So think about that every time you see Trippy do her follow-up attack. But anyway, I think I'm gonna go ahead. I've been rambling for so long, but I had a lot of thoughts to give, and I think at this point of the video, I'm pretty much done with the pulls and stuff like that. But yeah, so those are my overall thoughts on everything that's been going on with Star Rail, and I'm going to continue to play the game. I'm going to continue to pull for characters, but I understand that there's a lot of people who have some grievances about it, and I think that that's perfectly fine. And Star Rail is on this point. Star Rail is in this flux. I would say it's in a state of flux, but it's in this point of time now where a lot of people's honeymoon phases are over, and people are starting to see it for what it is, which is a gacha game. So again, I think that, if you're feeling a particular way about this particular patch, I would just, this is the perfect time to vote for your wallet and make your thoughts known about how you feel about the state of Star Rail. But let me know in the comment section below. How do you feel about everything happening in Star Rail lately? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you mad? I want to know your thoughts. I'm interested to hear people's perspectives on everything that's been going on. How do you feel about Castorice as a character? She is insanely fun to use. Like, I think that she's probably one of the more, she definitely feels like an anniversary character. But I also understand that, yeah, you can feel the power creep when you use her compared to other DPS characters. But I think at this point, I'm gonna cut ahead to the build portions of the video and how I build up Castorice. I'll just probably cut towards the end of that, and so you can see like my finalized build, and then we will go ahead and wrap things up for there. So yeah, thanks for listening to my rambles, and yeah, let me know what you think. Hey, so this is post editing cam once again. Yeah, the audio mixing is just not the best, so I'm going to be post commentating the ending of this video. So yeah, as you can see, looking at the build, we're looking pretty strong. I did change after the recording. I changed one. I re-rolled one of my pieces and got a higher crit rate stat boost. So when you see her in future videos, I think her crit rate is like 58% right now at the time of this recording, post editing. So yeah, let me know what you think about her build. Again, I say this as I was building Castorice, but I really do like building characters like her and Tribby, because I don't have to worry about freaking speed substat rolls. I really can just focus on like the three main crits that she cares about is HP, crit rate, and crit damage. So, and obviously with her 4-piece on the new quantum set, she gets, to lower her speed, she gets a 32% crit rate boost. So yeah, she's sitting pretty nicely, and I've used her again in several game modes after the recording, and she's absolutely insane. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you feel about the current state of Star Rail. How do you feel about Castorice as a character? Put it all on in the comment section below. I love to respond to all comments. I check, not regularly, but I'll go on our YouTube studios and see if we have any new comments on some of our videos, and I'll respond accordingly. So do me a favor and get that engagement up. Help us combat the YouTube algorithm. And while you're there, be sure to again like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And we shall see you next time on Gacha and the Gacha, where I think the next video will be a Triple Z gameplay video with the Shield defense, and then next week Apocalyptic Shadow will be refreshing. So of course we'll be taking our shiny new unit, baby girl Castorice, and seeing how she performs in there. So see you all then.